Who is God? I mean, it's pretty much one of the biggest questions you can ask. Theologian Richard Bauckham has this idea that the Bible isn't just a random library of books, but one single unfolding story that tries to answer that very question. So in this explainer, we're going to trace one really powerful thread through that story, this idea of God's presence. Okay, so let's jump in with a pretty provocative thought from J.B. Phillips. Your God is too small. And right from the get-go, this quote kind of challenges us, you know? It suggests that maybe our ideas about God, the ones we just carry around in our heads, might be a little cramped, a little limited, maybe even a little bit wrong. So how do we get a bigger, more accurate picture of God? Well, instead of trying to understand everything all at once, we're going to take a page out of Bauckham's book and just focus on this one core theme, divine presence. We're going to see how a few key moments in the biblical story can totally expand our understanding of who God is and how he relates to the world. The big idea here is that the Bible isn't just a jumble of stories and rules. It's one grand narrative. And inside that huge story, there are these pivotal moments, these moments of revelation that don't just add a new piece of information. They fundamentally shift the whole perspective for the characters in the story, and for us too. All right, so our first stop is a really famous story from the book of Genesis, but it's one we often misunderstand. We're talking about Jacob, a guy who's on the run, totally alone, who lies down to sleep in the middle of nowhere and has a dream that changes absolutely everything. We've all seen pictures like this, right? Jacob's ladder. And we usually think of it as a way for people, or maybe angels, to climb up to God, who's way off in some distant heaven. It's a story about trying to bridge this huge gap. But what if that's not the point at all? Okay, this is where everything gets turned on its head. Bauckham points out that the dream isn't about a ladder for climbing up to God. It's more like a giant staircase being built from heaven down to earth. The big reveal isn't about Jacob finding a way up. It's about God coming down to Jacob. The message isn't that God is up there, but that he is, shockingly, right here. So Jacob wakes up stunned, and he says, "Surely the Lord is in this place." He even names the spot Bethel, which means house of God. But here's the kicker. The truly radical part wasn't the secret location. It was that God wasn't just chilling at the top of the stairs. He was standing right there beside Jacob, on the ground. And this is the promise that changes everything. It's not, hey, stay here in this special holy spot. It's, I will go with you. This idea of a personal, active, traveling presence becomes the central theme we're going to follow. It's a game changer. So this idea keeps growing. This question of God's presence, is it stuck in one place or does it move with us, becomes this major theme for the whole nation of Israel. And it gets physically represented in two very, very different buildings. So first, you've got the tabernacle. It's literally a tent, a mobile home for God's presence that traveled with the people through the desert. It's basically Jacob's promise made into a building. But then, much later, you get the temple in Jerusalem. It's this massive, permanent stone house. It's a destination you have to travel to in order to be in God's presence. You see, these two buildings set up this huge theological question. Is God the one who comes along with us on our journey no matter where we go? Or is God more like a king who stays in his holy capital city, a fixed point you have to go visit? The biblical story actually holds both of these ideas in tension for a long, long time. And this, of course, brings us to the New Testament. This is where all these threads, the promise, the presence, the dwelling, they all start to come together in a really surprising way. The story takes a dramatic turn, suggesting God's presence isn't in a place anymore, it's in a person. It all kicks off with a name, Emmanuel. A prophet named Isaiah first spoke it, but Matthew's gospel comes along and says this name finds its real meaning in Jesus. And it's not just a nice title, it's a direct claim. Jesus is, literally, God with us. Then John's gospel makes this even more obvious. When he writes that Jesus dwelt among us, the Greek word he uses is skenoo. Now, to anyone who knew the Hebrew scriptures, that would have sounded incredibly similar to the word for the tabernacle, mishkan. And what he's implying here is just, wow, Jesus is the new, living, walking tabernacle. God's mobile presence is now a person. And then, as if that wasn't enough, Jesus connects all the dots himself. He looks at his followers and tells them they're going to see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. He is flat out saying that he is the reality that Jacob only saw in a dream. He is the staircase, the ultimate meeting point between heaven and earth. Okay, let's step back and look at the big picture here. Because what started as this deeply personal promise to a lonely guy on the run has now become a universal reality for everybody. Remember where this whole journey began? With this incredible personal promise to Jacob, God's accompanying presence just for him and his future family, wherever their journey might take them. Now listen to the very last words Jesus says in Matthew's gospel. The language is almost exactly the same. It's the same promise, but now it's being spoken by the embodied presence of God himself, and it's being given to everyone, everywhere. And that's the incredible trajectory of this story. The promise of I am with you expands from one person to one nation, and finally, through Jesus, to all of humanity, for all time. The scope just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And in the Bible's final vision, in the book of Revelation, this whole theme reaches its ultimate conclusion. It says, God's dwelling, his tabernacle, is finally with humanity. That tension between a mobile tent and a fixed temple, it's gone, because there is no temple building at all. God and the Lamb are the temple. The presence is total, complete, and unmediated. So, we end right back where we started with a question for you. If this whole biblical story is really telling us that God's presence is a promise, not a place, a presence that moves with us, well, what does that change about how we think, how we live, and where we expect to find him?